Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Activities for People Living at Home with Dementia. We are proud to offer this series with funding from the Area Agency on Aging and the United Way of Tarrant County. These programs are recorded and are made available for viewing through a YouTube channel for future use. I am your host for today's activities. It is my pleasure to introduce Peggy Spear from the Amon Carter Museum of American Art. Peggy is bringing us the title Abstract today. And as usual, we can hardly wait to see what Peggy is bringing forth from the archives. Peggy, it is your show.
Thank you, thank you. All right, let's pull this bad boy up. Can you all see it?
Yes.
I don't know what that green square is.
It came up on mine too. If you just click another time, it should go away.
Well, I hope Janine joins us because I know she is a lover of abstract. And today we're looking at, they're all works on paper. Or, well, actually, yeah, they're all works on paper. And we're looking at a few different artists and two abstracts from that same artist and how we're going to talk about maybe similarities and differences. But again, we have a gajillion things that are abstract in our collection. The last time we looked at things that were representing abstractions that were actually representing something in true life. Today, we're looking at total abstractions. It is not meant to replicate anything, but just color and balance and beauty. So the first artwork we're going to look at is by an artist named Arthur Dove. And the title gives us no clue. It's just titled Untitled Sketch. And there's no exact date. The two artworks we're looking at, there's no exact date that he did this. He was a prolific tester and sketcher. So these are just things that happen to exist in his studio that we have now because they're just as beautiful as some of his masterpieces. So tell me what you see.
I see scrubbing bubbles.
Scrubbing bubbles. Okay, which part, what told you that's what you saw?
The dome shape with
Okay.
the bottom. The scrubbing bubbles are the little round things with the scrub things on the bottom that advertise cleaning the bathtub.
Yeah, okay.
That's exactly what I saw.
I see a river that goes around trees.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's
I see
good.
that.
That's what I saw.
Really? Okay.
I kind of see mountains.
And maybe
Mountains.
mountains in the back, yeah.
This
I
does
see
have a very naturalistic feel to it.
An egg.
I see a fried egg, a donut, and a roll of toilet paper.
Oh, very good.
Wait, I'm missing the toilet paper. What is that?
Down here.
Right here.
Oh, I got it.
So
I see a monster.
A monster. What is
Monster?
this, the face?
The egg and the donut are his eyes.
Yeah.
Egg in the
Looks
donut.
like his hair. Looks like his hair parted right down the middle.
I see sheep in the background.
Cheez-Its?
sheep.
Sheep.
Oh,
in the back-
sheep. I'm like, oh man, I love Cheez-Its. Yeah, sheep.
Yes.
Yeah, sheep.
Yeah, on that, if for those who are in the mountain mindset, not the monster or the breakfast table mindset, you can see some sheep that almost like on a mountain side.
Yes.
He was using wax-based paint on paper. So this is paper, which he was really interested in experimenting with different mediums. So this is an example. You wouldn't typically see wax-based paint on paper. But here he is. This is just a kind of a study or something he was doing in his studio to experiment. So this is a good example of his using different materials.
What exactly is a wax paint?
Something that would be water, like it's kind of tacky. It's not water-based because it's wax. So some paints are water-based, some paints are oil-based.
Sure.
So it would you would probably be able to see, you can kind of see down here, some of his brush strokes. It would be, have a lot of texture to it.
Okay.
Oh,
And can
Bravo.
you kind of see looking at this? I mean, granted, we're looking at a 3D, what would have 3D texture of 2D. Can you see some of places where there might be texture?
Where your pointer is.
Right, yeah, that, I'm not sure what that is, but yeah, you can see like.
That's a little duck on the,
Yeah, the green
The
part
river.
to your left.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a raft. We've got a raft
Yeah,
on the
well,
river. So you
well,
can
you can,
see the artist.
above the arch, you can see the brush marks.
Yes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you can see his very, all of his strokes are very visible in this artwork. You can see exactly, you know, this went first, then this one over top of it. You can see here different brush strokes. This
Yep.
looks like one continuous brush stroke.
Mm-hmm.
Some dabs down here where he's painted the trees that get us all.
Still good.
so,
You're really
it-
able to see the artist's hand, and he was very. Some people say he was the first American abstract painter, and influenced the ABX movement in the United States. He painted one representational artwork that we know of, and that's actually in our collection. It's of a table scene of a lobster and a pitcher on a very elaborate tablecloth and wallpaper. And then after that, he went totally abstract. And he cycled throughout his life, abstraction and different maybe types of cubism. And he ended up, this was painted, he died in 1946, and he went full circle. By the time he died, he was painting in complete abstraction again.
Probably, Don, it's melted wax that's colored and thinned out.
yeah,
It could be used, have a, I don't know, some kind of thinner in it,
yeah,
make it a little bit thinner
yeah. I'm gonna-
Another artist,
so it
it's
doesn't
called
congeal.
it's called Encaustic. In other places, you might see Encaustic. That's the same type of wax-based paint. And
Caustic.
you, like Jackson Pollock and Rothko, often would experiment or paint things in encaustic. And Arthur Dove was one of the artists that that is credited with influencing the first wave of ABX artists like Jackson Pollock and Mark Rothko. So that would, you know, that you don't see much of that type of paint in artworks after this ABX movement.
So I've got two questions, Peggy.
Mhm.
Since it's wax-based paint, is it susceptible to heat damage?
Yeah, it would, this, and especially on paper too, it's not the
Yeah.
most stable medium to paint on. So yeah, because this is something he was probably just doing privately, he knew that this was not something that would eventually go on view.
Okay. And the other one is,
And this is small. This is only about 3 inches by 4 inches.
okay.
Wow.
Oh, that's tiny.
You got a
Tiny.
lot of detail in there.
Right.
Yeah. I know
Also-
this is very misleading seeing it on your computer screen. It's just like a little guy.
Really. So the other thing I was going to ask is that I noticed that the things that look like mounts at the top, it doesn't have really well-defined edges on it.
No,
It looks like, to me, it looks like when I paint something, I make a mistake. on what I'm trying to
yeah.
paint.
I mean, it feels like there is kind of a rushed completion of this artwork. This wasn't something that I mean, I don't know how much time he spent on this, but it probably was something he was just experimenting with. Sort of when you think about maybe if you are doing a sketch, it's got that unfinished quality to it.
Yeah.
And you just pointed out a perfect detail of that unfinished quality. It really is a sketch. He might have been experimenting with color combinations or just experimenting with the wax paint on paper to see what that kind of effect would be. But yeah, it wasn't meant to hang on view.
Okay.
So we're gonna
There's
look at, oh, go ahead.
I looked at it, there's a brand called Colors, which is basically a a water solution, soluble wax medium that you can buy in art supplies. It's a wax-based paint.
Interesting.
Do you have to heat it to use it?
No, it's you just squeeze it out of a tube
Huh.
because
That's
it'll thin out with water. So it's kind of like a watercolor, but it's got wax in it.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
And it's kind of the colors are a lot more vibrant than watercolors. So
So
it's
you
more
can
like the
see
front.
here, that's a really good segue, Steve. So you can see how royal blue that blue is, or cobalt blue. The white even is very striking. This next painting, he's just using oil on paper. So you can kind of see it feel, I mean, granted, the colors he's selecting are a little more muted, but it's got more of that, it does feel more muted. It's not a bright brick color, or even that black feels not as thick or dark as it might have looked in the wax. So this is the same artist. Again, it's that same time span towards the end of his life where he was, he went totally non-representational again, and totally innovative when he did it in the start of his career in the early 1910, 1911, and now ending with that totally. So even though it's non-representational, do we see anything come together in your mind as if it were representational?
I think I see bricks.
Bricks, yeah, that color.
Now, see, I think I'm inside a tent, and that's the tent pole, and the green is the top of the tent.
I love that.
Yay.
That's a cool one.
I must be in a cleaning mode because I see a mop with a squeegee back.
Marcia, I saw the same dang thing. Yeah, do you have a big cleaning day ahead of you coming up, or did you just get off of a big cleaning day?
I think I need to. What do y'all think?
I'm not commenting.
What does this compared to what you feel when you maybe see this one, what does this make you feel?
It's missing some happiness in my mind.
Yeah.
Missing any emotion is what I'm thinking.
Very dark and
It's quieter. It feels.
The other one
darker
jumps out at you, and this is just kind of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is another small one. This is still 3 by 4 inches.
And it is a lot darker in vibration for me. What Yetta said.
Yeah, it's a very different feel. You can still see his brush strokes. Are you guys seeing them?
Yeah.
One here. You know, it looks as if he might have put paint or something here. There, it looks like the outline of something.
Yeah.
And he might have tried to cover up whatever direction he thought he might have been going. I mean, we don't know, but
It looks kind of like a paint line. He let dry a little bit and then painted over it. That's what it looks like. Because you have that every once in a while when you're painting, if you don't smooth it out.
Yeah.
You have lines like that.
And he was very inspired by the recording the natural world around him. So he journaled a lot. Up until his dying day, he was always writing down his observations of the natural world around him. So these to me feel like very natural colors.
Yeah.
Whereas this feels more of a depiction of a natural setting.
Yes.
He was very much influenced by the natural surroundings, and he was very much influenced by musical motifs and sounds, what he felt sound vibrations might look like. So these artworks so much don't hit on those notes of the sound motifs and the musical motifs he was interested in, but throughout his career, you would see those motifs pop up again and again.
I can hear the sheep bleating on the hillside.
Mhm.
What a cheery artwork. This artwork has actually been on view in our museum years and years ago. This one has not been. We have about 30 sketches like this of his from his estate. So it's pretty cool seeing them, at least in our database, seeing them all together, how different one is from the next, whether it's color palette or the motions of his brush stroke.
Those
All right, so
sheep look like they're walking plowed ground.
Say that again.
Those sheep look like they're walking plowed ground.
Yeah,
It's true.
Yes.
it's a
Yeah.
summer, the end of summer mountain where things start to look a little scorched. Okay, we're gonna totally leave Arthur Dove. And we're gonna look at another very well-known abstract artist, painter, sculptor, and his name's Herbert Bear. Have any of you heard of his name before?
No, sorry, I haven't.
How many of you have been to Denver before? Denver.
Yeah.
He has quite a few public sculptures in Denver, and his archives are at the Denver Art Museum, so they often have a lot of his artwork on view. The curator of the Modern and Contemporary collection is one of the leading scholars for this particular artist, so she likes him, so you'll see some of his artwork out more frequently there than you might other places. So this is lithography. We've seen lithography time and again, and no shock if he did this when he was or actually this was not a Tamarind one. The other one we're going to look at was when he was at the Tamarind print studio. This was something he did outside of Tamarind. It's called Convolution.
Yep.
What do you see?
I see a lady's bun wrapped up in the back with ribbons out of it.
Okay.
Ooh.
Looks like somebody with a mask on.
Is this the map?
Maybe a mask, yeah.
Pure product of 2020. That's
I see, when you find seashells at the ocean and they're cut halfway through, that's sort of what I see.
oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Mhm.
It just looks furry to me.
Furry. What
It's like
first makes you think that?
Like they took a cat tail and just twisted it all around.
Yeah. Particularly this one hits me as a furry one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Could be a blow-up floating toy.
Did you say floating toy?
Floating, like floating, FLOATIN, floating
Uh-huh.
on water. It's just the middle part, not the outside.
Okay,
A
like
little-
an inner tube type.
Yeah, with a little indentation in it and things like that. It kind of stands out, kind of blow up type.
Yes.
I see beautiful shapes.
Yeah.
You do.
This
And
is very
I also see hills and lakes.
Oh, okay. Another natural.
Ooh.
So this one artwork we're looking at is part of a portfolio of 7 artworks. And depending on which museum you find this, it's sometimes called winding. And do you get the sense of something winding?
Oh yeah.
You can see the lines keep coming in on itself. So your eyes stay within this frame. You're not wanting to follow it to any particular corner. It really keeps you focused within the center of the paper.
A bit like Escher.
Yeah. So this was made, so the lithography's got some blue ink in it. The other artworks in this are, some are portrait style, some are landscape style, and kind of have similar vibes, but all very different colors.
It
So that
also,
was part of it. Oh, say that again?
I couldn't remember the word for a while, but it also reminds me of a Mobius strip.
Mobius
Yes.
strip, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, so, okay, so this is one of his abstractions. This is another one,
Oh wow.
totally different.
Woo.
All right, we had this was a pretty, people had some reactions. Tell me what you're thinking.
It looks like the inside of a gearbox. At
Okay,
least it's not cleaning.
it's not cleaning, right, right.
It's
I
looking, looks like the page when they're trying to align print heads.
Mm. Okay,
Yes.
and that grayscale kind of plays into that. Janine, what were you starting to say you saw?
Beautiful shapes.
Yeah.
I just like the shape of it. The square edges and the things leading off, the fading out at the ends.
Mhm.
This could be a representation of G42.
What-
It's almost a bar,
It's
almost a
in
bar graph.
42.
In 42.
It's almost a bar graph on its
Yeah.
side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah,
I
it
saw
feels
that.
very hard edge compared to the swirly
Yeah.
in the 50s of this
Mhm.
one. It's very, the colors are very crisp. You know, there is some fading, but it fades into very hard gray. There's no, not much blending. It feels really balanced.
It's very interesting because the top block and then one couple down are the same block. They line up exactly.
Mhm.
And if you go to the side where that little short little one on the right-hand side, the thin
Oh,
one,
right,
and the one down, farther down, they line up.
yeah.
And the one up second, third line up top line up with the one on the bottom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Great observation.
Great.
So,
Now, the others don't line up, but those do.
But
Yeah.
because there's so much balance with those, your eye can still follow the ones that kind of kick out, but it brings you right back to the center. It doesn't feel unbalanced.
so I see different kinds of blocks standing up with the top having light on top of it, and the darker colors having shadows.
Yeah.
See what you're
Yeah,
saying?
3D.
Cool.
I see it looks 3D to me. Yes.
Okay.
A Jenga game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, when I first saw it, it felt like the circuit breaker, where it's like some are kicked some way, some switches are kicked another way. It felt very kind of mechanical to me.
Yeah.
If they were more uniform in size, it'd almost be like pistons in the motor.
Yes.
Yes.
So this is, you can see it's called Untitled, but then it says 8 monochromes 3 in the parentheses. This is the third of 8 prints in a portfolio he made when he was at Tamarind. And so his paintings around this time very much resemble what these lithographs look like. He was always full abstraction. So often his paintings look very much like this. So you might have seen a Bear somewhere and not realize you were seeing it. Very kind of geometrical. That was the word I was looking for.
There's actually some more uniformity within it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because you see the solid white and it fades down.
Mhm.
Yep.
If you look at it, the next block, if you look at it closely, another block of solid white starts at the end of that faded down.
Uh-huh.
And then another one and another one and another one. It just keeps going,
Yeah.
repeating down the scale.
The other thing I thought about was I thought they looked like a bunch of paintbrushes in
Uh-huh.
line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All different sizes.
Mhm.
Okay, so of the two here, what speaks to you more?
The first one.
The
First one,
first
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the first one.
It's more
I like the
organic.
second one.
You like the second one, Janine?
Yes. I like the first one a lot, but I like the second one better.
Yeah. They're both very beautiful, very different, but very beautiful. And this particular one is 20 by 20. So it's pretty large. It's a perfect square and it's a sizable piece. Our last comparison is by a Japanese American artist, and his name is Kanumitsu. And he grew up he actually grew up in Japan. He was born in the United States in Oregon, grew up in Japan, and then came back right around the Pearl Harbor and ended up in a detainment camp.
Ooh.
And once he was out, he moved down to California and made Los Angeles home. And you can see he's working abstractly, although it doesn't feel totally abstract to me. I know it is, but I see something. It feels like he's trying to create something because there's such delineation. But what do you guys see when you first look at this?
I see one of the psychological tests that's a Rorschach test.
Mm-hmm.
You just look at it and make up what you see.
I have to go, but I see an alpha and an omega.
An alpha omega.
Okay.
The beginning and the end.
I see a man standing in front of a fire.
I see.
But I gotta go, so we'll see you next
Bye-bye,
week.
Steve.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
baby.
Steve.
I see the Queen of Diamond.
The Queen of Diamonds. All right.
Are you a big card player, Yetta?
No, not really.
I see the top of a match that had been struck.
What?
Ah,
Yeah.
You see what?
The top of a match that had just been struck.
Oh.
Oh.
The match head.
So it's totally abstract. We all literally, the things you guys are saying, I'm like, oh yeah. So maybe he wasn't meaning to make anything at all, but this was again a tamarin. It says it was, if you can see, it's TAM4, so short for tamarin. His first, from what I can have been able to find, his first stint at the Tamarin studio was in 1961, but because he lived in LA, I think he was working out of the Tamarin studio quite a bit. That one he had in 1961 was funded by the Ford Foundation. So I'm not sure if these this one and the next one were made at Tamarin, if it was just something he was working at the studio, but not on that grant. So he was Japanese American, but he was always making sumi paintings, which are like the traditional black ink Japanese artworks that are often, looks like a brushstroke creating characters or simple line movements. You can see that kind of translating here with the black and the white. It still has that black ink feel to it, but it's totally different or totally abstract in a way that doesn't match with those Japanese traditions.
Yeah, I mean, the gray stuff around the match head also looks like it's kind of made fluid. It doesn't seem like it's.
It does. It feels like he might have put some water on the ink.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it does. It feels like he might have manipulated the print after it ran through. And the person who printed this particular print, because this studio was just as much a workshop for the artists as it was for the printers to become master printers or who are already well known in their industry. The printer for this, we end up having prints he, as an artist, made that we're going to have on view later in the year.
Okay.
So this is really cool where you're seeing the artists, kind of two artists working together that were both working in a
Okay.
tradition.
So does that white thing in the corner, bottom left corner, is that somebody's thumbprint when they?
I don't know. I hope not. That's
Or-
not a very good print job then, but I'm not sure. It feels more deliberate to me because there's no black at all on it.
Yeah.
The signature starts at the edge of that too.
Say that again.
At the left, his signature starts where the
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
at the point that it was cut off or torn off or whatever.
Yeah, so that right
So
here
that
is
makes it look
title.
more deliberate.
Yeah, it could have been he put the touche or the ink down, and then how it printed, there was just no ink that went there. It didn't splay out far enough or whatever. But yeah, here, this is the title of the artwork, and over here you can see his signature. And he was good friends with Jackson Pollock, the painter Jackson Pollock, who nicknamed him Mike. So sometimes you'll see Mike Kanumitsu, not his God-given name. So if you ever see that name, it's the same person.
So I'm trying to figure out what TAM4 means.
So the studio was Tamarin.
Yeah.
And so it's the abbreviated the name of the studio. And then this was probably his fourth print.
Okay.
Or design of that portfolio. So we've got one more by him, and then I'll leave y'all. But
Oh,
isn't this cool?
yeah.
Oh, I like this.
Somehow.
So you're seeing here, this is again a lithograph he made at Tamarin. Totally different vibe. I mean, like night and day. He made this several years after the fact. And again, he was someone who was in that second wave of ABEX artists, inspired by the art. He was in the wave after Pollock and Rothko. So
yeah,
you can see total abstraction. But to me, it sort of feels like almost like a negative print or something that's being developed.
Exactly.
Do you see that, Don? Do other people see
I
that?
do, yes.
Yes.
I can't think of the word again, but the colors are opposite on the color wheel.
Contrasting colors.
Yeah.
Contrasting.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see two abstract people kissing in the foreground and a woman dancing in the background.
Oh, okay.
Very good descriptors. And because, like you pointed out, that he used complementary colors.
That's the right word.
What does that effect do as to the viewer? How does that work in relationship together?
It's
complete.
Very high contrast.
Very high contrast, which makes it feel like the blue is almost coming out at you.
Yeah.
And the orange is kind of receding back.
Mm-hmm.
Van Gogh is very good at using complementary colors to create shadows in his artworks. Same with Monet. So you kind of see too, we see a lot of hard lines here, very deliberate lines. Here you kind of get that sense of the Sumi Japanese brush work. Because it feels, you almost can feel as if right here is where he lifts his brush up. He started maybe over here, did a swirl, and then came down. So it has that painterly effect for it being a print. So this is, and you can see his name. I know, like we just talked about his last print having a signature.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's up in the corner. So this is about 12 by 12, and this one is much larger. It's 21 by 16. So he's working in two different scales too.
I wonder how they make a decision as to what size to make something.
A good question. And you can see here it says Tam. So again, the Tamarin work.
Okay.
Yeah. Which one are we feeling of these two?
I like the orange and blue one.
Yeah.
Orange and blue?
Somehow.
Somehow it's nicer.
Yeah.
It's warm.
Cheery.
Warm. That's a good word. Warm.
It's just
Right, gang?
weird because blue is a very cool color.
Yeah, but it's the orange.
Orange is an
It's more
extremely
prominent.
warm color.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works. To me, it feels like a cheer. It has a happier effect than this.
Yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
definitely.
Even though there is a lot of white, it's still it feels darker, like Yetta said earlier about one of the other artworks. It has a heavier feel to it. All right, friends. Well, those are our abstract artworks today. We'll probably be looking at abstract again and again in the future. Next week, we're back with school because kids are back in school, if you can even believe it. This week, Fort Worth ISD went back. So we are in the thick of it already. So
Pretty amazing. Peggy, thank you.
You're welcome.
What'd you,
Bye,
Peggy,
guys.
what,
So good
what'd you say?
seeing
What-
you.
School.
School, okay, never mind, never mind.
Talk to y'all later.
Bye, Peggy.
Bye,
Okay,
Peggy.
bye.
Peggy.
Thank you.
Well, let's take a look and see what's up. Thursday, Nia moving to heal with Emily Corbin. I'm so glad she's here to help us to move.
Really enjoy her.
Well, good, good.